Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Lynn, for giving us the space to organize this event, and thank you everyone who's here or who's representing some party or candidate to take their time. I will not take too much of time. I'll just introduce the first parent to tell their story, that is Elaine Harris, and then once the parents finish, I'll talk about in brief. So please welcome Elaine Harris. Her story is a bit old, more than 10 years old, but you should see the difference 10, 15 years old and the present story and the future very parents, it's nothing has changed, So please welcome Elaine Harris.
Roopesh asked me to come along to speak about my story. It's not a current story, but unfortunately, I don't see a whole heap has changed in the past 15 years that I've been involved in campaigning for education equality in Ireland. As I said, my name is Elaine Harris. That's my daughter Grace Barry there. She's my youngest child. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old as well. I'm sixth generation living in Lucan. I went to the school my father went to, I went to the school my grandfather went to, I went to the school my great-grandfather went to. Moved away, got married, came back, had kids. Didn't really put too much thought into it. We weren't practicing Catholics, but that wasn't really featuring large in my figuring of what we were going to do. This was 1999 when there was an absolute explosion in the population in suburbs like Lucan. So roll on 2001 and I thought I'd trot down to the local school and just register and that would be it, and that wasn't it. All of the local schools were oversubscribed. All of the local schools had enrollment policies that probably were going to disenfranchise my child. And more importantly for me, because we were not practicing Catholics, I was going to put my child into an education system that was going to exclude him for a significant portion of the day, and that wasn't acceptable to me. So we were very lucky. We had an Educate Together school in Lucan, so I trotted down there and I was told there wasn't a snowball's chance in hell of me getting my child in. He was so far down the waiting list, it was ridiculous. I think the number was about 200. My husband's there, about 200, is that where he was? Yeah. So we were stymied, to be honest with you. So what happened was I saw a note in my creche to say there was a meeting in somebody's house about setting up a second Educate Together school in the Lucan area, and I thought that'll do me nicely. I'll go to a meeting and sign a couple of petitions and we'd be happy out. Well, myself and 7 other parents got together and we met and we met and we fought and we met, and we spent 10,000 hours in 2 years to get the school off the ground. And we got the school off the ground, and it was a great school, and my 3 children have either been through it or are going through it at the moment. But no parent should spend 10,000 hours with their friends setting up a school. It's just wrong. These are national schools. They are paid for by my funds and your funds, and we should not be excluded like that. And our children should not be excluded from parts of the day in those schools either. I passionately believe in equal access and equal respect. So 15 years later, I'm still involved. Paddy up the back there had his protest going on over the summer for 7.3c removal, so I got involved in that. And I'm currently campaigning on that, and I will stay campaigning, not for my children. My children are in a school that they are respected in and they have equal access and equal respect in. But my grandchildren may not be, your children may not be, and it's just not right. So that's why I'm here today.
Thanks, Elaine. Now we have next parent, that's Phillipa Ryder, and she will tell her story.
Thank you, Roopesh, for the invitation to this very valuable seminar. I'm afraid my story is from even further back than Elaine's. 20 years ago, my daughter, who is now studying here, she's studying history and political science in Trinity, she was born. We were lapsed Catholics. We didn't really consider schools to be a priority at that stage, We didn't bother getting her baptised because, as I say, we were lapsed, so it didn't particularly weigh heavily on our minds. As time went on, however, my parents and my partner's parents and society in general kind of led us to think that, hang on a second, there's pressure here to get baptised, to conform. And around the age of, when my daughter was around 3, we decided to, as Elaine did, we wandered down to the local school to register her, and were told in no uncertain terms that she had to be baptised. And we were horrified at this. Luckily, there wasn't too much of a waiting list. Because of my parents, because of society in general, we figured, well, we'd better get her baptised anyway. So we gave in. We unfortunately did get her baptised. We got her into the local school. She participated in all the usual, the communion, the confirmation and so on. She never really believed. We certainly didn't believe, but we conformed, which is a sad state of affairs to have to actually conform. So as time went on, she very much kind of lapsed as well, and she became extremely interested in toleration and acceptance, and basically exploring different cultures, resulting in the fact that she went to Delhi last year to teach disadvantaged children maths and science. And so we're very proud of the way that she's developed over the time, despite the fact that she was forced and brainwashed, I think as one of the speakers said, brainwashed by the Catholic ethos within the church. So I think my story, while I have absolutely no activism in Educate Together, unfortunately my issues lie elsewhere, mainly in the marriage referendum last year. But what the overriding concern for both myself and my partner are to tolerate and to accept others. So I think, as I say, because we've had no actual involvement in the Educate Together process, we kind of feel a bit of a fraud here, but at the same time know that there are so many people who would support the Educate Together principle, and to basically accept all cultures and all belief systems, and it should not be a requirement to have any one particular belief system to get your child educated. So I suppose that would be basically my story.
Thanks, Phillipa. Now, I would like to welcome one of my closest friend and a hardcore campaigner, Paddy Monahan, who's a worried father, and he has been campaigning very hard along with me and Nikki Murphy. And thankfully, we have reached a stage where we think that it has become an election issue, and we just have to wait how it goes further. So please welcome Paddy Monahan.
Thanks very much. Feel free, anyone, just if you've got a short question, I'll give a short answer to it. Because I'm a parent to a young kid, 11-month-old boy, Cormac, and but look, story after story after story, it gets pretty boring. It's the same story. You either baptise under duress. I mean, there are people who want to baptise their kids, and that's absolutely great. You either baptise under duress or you don't baptise. And we've heard two sides of the story here today so far. So my little boy is 11 years old, the local school is oversubscribed, we all know the story. Under Irish law, it being an oversubscribed, oh no wait, it's a school with a Catholic ethos, so you know, it has to be allowed. The point being, over 90% of schools have Catholic ethos, 97% in total have a religious ethos, so this law applies to 97% of schools. An oversubscribed school can turn away a child on the basis of the child's religion. To me, I just do not see the difference between a child's religion and a child's skin colour. Why don't we legislate for children's skin colour and say, you know, your black child can come into this school, but only after the white children have been accounted for. Roopesh, you mentioned the forthcoming election. Hopefully you make this an election issue. I'm going to use nice language because we've got young people here, but I'm absolutely furious that after everything that's happened in the last year, after all the hard work that you've done, that Nikki has done, that lots of people in this room have done, it's not really an election issue, folks. Sorry, it is not. Fine Gael, one person in Fine Gael, when he was dragged before the United Nations Committee, made some vague reference to the Constitution. The Constitution does not need to be changed so that our children can go to the local school. The Constitution, as it stands, requires that our children go to the local school. So that's Fine Gael do not have a policy on this whatsoever. Fianna Fáil's policy, after much hand-wringing, what they seem to have gone for is children, I'm trying to work it out because it's very unclear as it's written, local Catholic children will still be prioritised, but previously kids from outside the area who are of that religion could also be prioritised. Now it seems to be unbaptised children and children of other religions may be accommodated after local baptised kids. So my reading of Fianna Fáil's policy is we go from third class citizens to second class citizens. That's not good either. Labour's policy, we've had 2 Labour ministers for education in the last 5 years. They've achieved nothing on this. Labour's policy has gone from, I'll come back to that. Labour have achieved nothing on this. Their policy has gone from essentially focusing on divestment and choice, which I'll come back to in a moment, to now they're talking about a quota system, as far as I'm aware, because this seems to change from day to day, but now they're talking about a quota system. So we're going to apply a quota as to how many of our kids are going to get into their local school. Only a certain number, but it will be a quota that we apply. To me, that sounds like Alabama in the 1960s. Either we have constitutional rights, either we have human rights, or we don't have them. We don't negotiate for constitutional rights. We don't compromise on constitutional rights, and we don't have quotas on human rights. We either have them or we don't. I think it's the 3 main parties, the 3 parties who've basically formed every government more or less since the foundation of the state, and that's how things stand when it comes to school access. I actually did, believe it or not, make a few notes on this. You're all probably up to, look, Section 7.3c of the Equal Status Act, that's the section that essentially allows 97% of schools, should they so wish, if oversubscribed, to turn away a child based on religion. As I said, there is no constitutional reason for that. There's not much point in wasting time on this because I have a relatively small amount of time here. What really kills me though, I shrivel up when I hear the focus every time being focused on divestment. Divestment has been an abject failure, a total failure, but I'm not sure why there's been such focus on divestment anyway. Now, what I will say is my campaign was for the repeal of Section 7.3c, school access, in other words, local school access for all children regardless of religion. It gathered 20,000 signatures in the space of a couple of months during the summer there. But I do agree with the likes of Roopesh and Nikki. They've changed my mind. Access is not enough. We have to have, in these schools, the fact is 97% of schools do have a religious ethos. Living in the real world, that's how things are at the moment. So the difficulty that we've had changing the divestment shows to me that really what we should be focusing on is moving religion to the last class of the school day or move it outside of the school day. That way, when local kids can access their local school, they can be removed from religion. Religion should not permeate all classes in the curriculum. It should be a separate, discrete class at the end of the school day so that a parent can arrange to always have their child removed from the local school. And this doesn't affect ethos, it doesn't affect the teaching of religion, it doesn't affect the patron of the school or anything like that. The reason I'm focusing on access is that I think choice, I think divestment is the greatest red herring. We've heard nothing but divestment for the last 5 years and nothing has been achieved on it. Choice is a nice word, it's a touchy-feely word, it's a cuddly word. What I say is, there can be no choice without equality. First comes equality, then comes choice. Choice is really good. If a parent feels very strongly that they want their child to go to a non-religious school, a totally non-religious school, it's important that they have the right to attend a non-religious school. But you can't have real choice until you first have equality. I want to send my child to the local school. I think religion is important. I would like it to be outside of the school day, but more important to me is convenience. I don't want to be driving for 3/4 of an hour against traffic every single day for the next 8 years solely because my child can't go to the local school. I want my child to go to school with his friends from the road. That's important to me. I'm not saying it's important to everyone. We all have our different reasons, but what I'm saying is we can't focus on choice. Choice is great, but I don't want particularly to send my kid to a non-religious school. I want my child to go to the local school with his friends. That's what I'm focused on. And Choice is important. First of all, equality. I should have an equal right to send my child to the local school. By focusing solely on divestment, as has been the case for the last 5 years, firstly, nothing's been achieved. It hasn't actually worked. It's been an abject failure. So why we keep banging on about it, I don't understand, except, as I said, choice is a nice word. It's nice to be able to keep dropping this word at election time. Nothing's been achieved on it. So equality first, equal access first, and then should parents seek to send their child to another school, that's fine. Otherwise, a focus on choice, a focus on divestment, unfortunately, as has been mentioned, to my mind actually can lead to further segregation. In fairness to Roopesh, to the best of my knowledge, I think you're Hindu, and I mean, I'm not into religion, so I mean, it's not important to me what religion anyone is. My point is, Roopesh did not bang the drum for a Hindu school for his child, but logically, if we take this to its logical conclusion, there should be a Hindu school provided for Roopesh and for his family. We should have a separate school, a separate choice, this fixation on choice for everyone, regardless of their religious outlook. What makes far more sense to me, let's have a national education system. Let's provide one really good education system, equal access for everyone, remove religion essentially from the day-to-day teaching of the school, have it after school, have it as the last class in the school day. And then should people not be satisfied with that, then certainly we will still require choice. But first of all comes equality of access. Otherwise, choice is a red herring. You cannot have choice without first having equality. So I think that's about it. The main parties have been pathetic on this, and shockingly, what really shocks me is I at least expected a load of BS commitments coming up to the election and then for them not to follow through with it. But what's really worrying is we're not even getting the BS commitments. We're just not getting it. There's nothing. We are not being promised anything. In fairness now, Sinn Féin have taken up the running on this. Social Democrats have taken up the running, so there's no point pretending they're all the same. But the three main parties, it worries me greatly, their position on this. So really that's it. If anyone has any, I know I've probably slandered a couple of people who feel differently, so if you have any quick questions, what we do need is a national education system. It makes perfect sense to me. Ideally a secular national education system, and empower us as individuals, as grown-ups, to raise our children as we see fit. I totally agree with you on that. Unfortunately, we live in the real world, we live in the system we live in. We live in a system that, as we can see from the abject, total failure of the divestment process, as we can see from that, and that was what, we got 2 schools in Dublin in the space of 5 years, and this was Rory Quinn. He did a lot of hard work on it, and this was the best we could do in 5 years. Talk of a secular national education system is certainly something to strive for, but in the look, I'm talking as a parent now. I want my kid to go to the local school. We've seen what happened in the last 5 years, zilch. So I wouldn't hold out much hope for a national secular education system anytime soon. In the meantime, working in the system that we do have, I think access to local schools for all children, regardless of religion, and making it a tolerable environment for all children and parents, thereby moving religion to the last class of the day and making it a discrete class, a discrete lesson, without religious paraphernalia, imagery and so on, bleeding into other lessons during the day. I think that's the practical approach that can be achieved very, very quickly, but a national education system isn't ideal to be sought.